This video is on simplifying fractions, or reducing fractions as we call it sometimes. At 6th grade you should already know how to do this for the most part, but I don't want to take things for granted. Okay, we're going to go through this anyway just to be sure, and then we're going to move on to operations on fractions like adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing, and we're going to look at making some things a bit more challenging as well. So let's have a look. Simplifying fractions. Well, what does it mean? It means that you want to have the fraction in its simplest form. Okay, you want to have it as simple as possible. So, for example, just we'll do it on the side here. If I have, let me see, 3 over 6. Okay, that's a fraction. But it's not in its simplest form because everybody knows that 3 over 6 is the same as 1/2. 1/2 in this case would be the simplest form, right? And that's the answer that we want. Now, how do we get it? Well, we notice that we can divide the top and the bottom is divisible by the same number. So we have to look for a number that divides into the top and into the bottom. Okay? In this case, 3 divides into the top. 3 into 3 goes once. And 3 goes into 6 twice, so it becomes 1 over 2. So let's look at this. If we have 9 over 24 is our original fraction, how can we reduce that, or how can we simplify that? Well, can you think of a number that divides into 9, or a number which is a factor of 9, and which is also a factor of 24? Well, most people will be able to see really quickly that 3 is a factor of both numbers. So I could divide the top of this fraction by 3, and the bottom of the fraction by 3. So if I do 9 divided by 3, I get 3, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So that means that 9/24 is the same as 3/8. Alright? And if you look at 3/8, I can't reduce that anymore because 1 is the only number that goes into 3 and also goes into 8. Alright? Let's look at the next one. 7 over 30. Now, is there a number that divides into the top and divides into the bottom? Well, we could think, does 7 goes into 7, does it go into 30? No. Other factors of 7. Well, 7 doesn't have any other factors apart from 1. So there's nothing. So that means that this is already in its simplest form, so I can write that down. If I want to, hold on, I'll write it in here a bit more neatly. Already in simplest form. Okay? There's nothing else you can do with that. And now let's have a look at a harder one here. So we have 84 and 120. Now the reason this is harder is because it might not be obvious straight away what to divide the top and the bottom by. But if you watch carefully, you can solve it through a process of steps. For example, I know that 12 divides into the top here and it divides into the bottom. I just happen to know that. I'm not saying that everybody will. So 84 divided by 12 is 7, 20 divided by 12 is 10. 7/10 can't be reduced anymore. So that's the answer. Now what if you didn't know that 12 was the biggest number? Or what if you didn't know what number to start by dividing in? Well, here's how we can go. Here's another way we can do it. Look, 84 over 120. Well, most people know that both of those are divisible by 2, right? Because they're both even numbers. Okay, so you always check if it's divisible by a number like 2 or 3 or 4. Okay, so that will leave you then with 42 over 60. Now you look at that again, you think 42 over 60 can be reduced again. Some people will notice that 6 divides into 42 and 6 divides into 60, but even if you don't, just divide by 2 again. And keep doing it until you can't reduce it any further. So you're going to get 21 over 30. And at this stage, most people will recognize that 3 divides into 21. 3 divides into 30. And that's going to leave you with 7/10. And that's your answer. 7 over 10. Okay? So there's 3 quick examples of simplifying fractions. You have one that won't simplify because it's already in simplest form. You have a simple one, And then here you have one that's a bit bigger that you might have to reduce it in steps. Okay? On this slide here, I have some problems for you to do. So what you can do, you can pause the video and work your way through them, and then there's the worksheet on Moodle that you can look at as well. So what I give you here is 6 over 15. So I ask you to simplify that. So look for a number that divides into 6 and divides into 15 and simplify. 16 over 44, 15 over 33, and so on. So you have 1 to 6 there. 6 problems that need to be done. Okay, so just going to reduce those fractions if possible. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are not reducible. Okay?